Welcome to the Real Estate Podcast with Robert Ikard. This is episode 11, lucky number 11, and it's September 12th, 2022. And it is my pleasure to welcome Debbie Saviano. And if I'm saying your name wrong, you need to correct me. But Debbie has never met a stranger, and that is one of the many reasons she loves social media. If you have internet, you can connect with the globe and all boundaries are removed. Debbie's going to talk about transitioning careers and how she's transitioned her career and how she helps other people transition their careers through social media. And welcome very much to the podcast, Debbie.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm so looking forward to it, Robert, sharing all the things about social media and how it can benefit us. So thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. I've really been looking forward to this, and I don't just say that. Part of it is because I don't know enough about social media, and I'm trying to learn more. Slowly but surely, I think the podcast is now linked in with Facebook. I posted on LinkedIn, Instagram, what else? Twitter. And so those are the things. Oh, yeah, Twitter. So that I think about covers it. But anyway, tell me about yourself a little bit and how you got into social media.
So I'm one of those people that I don't believe in long bios because I feel like people are here to learn what I have to share to see if I can help them in their business. I will tell you this, I moved probably 30 times growing up. Was definitely a nomad. The reason I've never met a stranger is because when you move that many times, you have to make friends really fast. And so
Yes.
benefits of that as a child growing up. Went into education, wanted to be a principal because I had this notion that if you were principal, you could control your building. Well, there's always somebody else who wants to do that for you. But I love being in education. I love being a principal. I was principal of six different campuses during my career, different schools, kindergarten to 12th grade, depending upon the school.
Oh, so you actually did become a principal.
Oh, yeah. You have to, in Texas, you have to teach 4 years, and I taught 4.5 years. And then I was fortunate enough to become a principal in Plano ISD, which is an incredible school district. And I have incredible memories of working there with the students and the staff and the parents. And just, it was an amazing experience. But I left that, and I always joke you can leave early, right? So I left that because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I spent 2.5 years learning everything I could on social media. And so it's funny how God has a path for us and things happen, but I didn't know what I was going to do. Truly did not know. But what happened was because my LinkedIn, I have an education background and I have a minor in psychology. So I kind of understood how people stay engaged on pages and how people stay interested. And I used that philosophy and those techniques in LinkedIn, and people started reaching out to hire me to do their LinkedIn profiles. And I tell this story so often, but I can still remember the guy who emails me, this is, 10 years ago, emails me and says, can you do for me what you've done for you on LinkedIn? And I went, hey, there's a niche here. And so that's how it started. And my age actually proved to be beneficial because you can get any 25 or 30-year-old to go over social media with you, right? But to get someone my age with the background I have was kind of unusual. And so that's how the journey started. And I love social media. I probably lean to LinkedIn because it's a professional platform. I use them all. But LinkedIn is my favorite by far.
Well, it's funny. I was telling you earlier that I didn't know until recently, we'd already booked the podcast and everything, that you're in the DFW area also. And I was thinking, well, I wonder where she's from, by the way. And so what my point is that your LinkedIn is so effective and so good. I wasn't looking for somebody from Dallas. As a matter of fact, you're our first Dallas guest. Yes, our DFW guest for that matter. But I wasn't necessarily seeking out somebody from this area. And then I thought, oh, I wonder where she's from. And then I saw Dallas and I'm like, oh my goodness. But what my point is I found you because you have such a great presence on LinkedIn, and I didn't even notice what city you were from.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. We lived in Plano for 30 plus years. And when we retired, my husband was principal in Plano as well. And when we retired, we moved out to the country. We live in Boyd, which is between Fort Worth and Dallas, and out in the country, and love it. And again, you have to have internet connection. That's about all. I can do what I do where I'm from, and I'm close to the airport when I have to fly. So it's a perfect combo. But thank you for that. I think LinkedIn is truly, I'm so biased, but the reason I'm biased is because I've seen the power, and I'll share some of that with some things today that just, I mean, they truly do amaze you what you can do when you recognize some of the opportunities. So.
Well, that's what we want to get into today. We want to drill down into some of that. But yes, LinkedIn has been interesting for me. And, just a couple things. Like just today, I was talking to a potential tenant, and he owns a sign company. And he says, oh, yeah, it used to be one way. He says, now social media and the internet has changed everything, and in a good way for him. And so I think, and a lot of people may say, Robert, this is a real estate podcast. When are you going to talk about real estate? Well, why don't you tell us? I'm going to let you do the talking. I'm going to let you answer that question. What does all this have to do with real estate? And I know that may sound dumb, but let me just ask you that.
So the thing that's beautiful about LinkedIn is that people don't go here by chance. People are on LinkedIn because they're there for a purpose. Their purpose is, how can you help them? So the one thing that we have to think about and remember with LinkedIn is 830 million plus members, if you will, professionals on there. It's a virtual Rolodex, 24/7, 365 days a year, global reach. And it's about building relationships. So I always tell people, what you do in physical space is what you do in digital space. People forget that. They think, because we all get the spam, or we get the things, you connect with someone and then 20 seconds later, you've got a long old thing. We never do that in physical space, never. So just like real estate, and when I speak, I talk about this sometimes. Real estate, y'all were ahead of the curve, if you will. Remember the business cards? You always had your name, your pictures on them. No one else did that. People thought that was kind of strange. The reason you did it, I think, is because when you can see someone's face and see their eyes and see their smile, you have a connection to them. And so you're able to start that relationship. Now, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a picture on a business card if they have a business card. But on LinkedIn, the top portion, that is our virtual business card. That is our business card. And so for real estate, I think let me tell you, okay, so I have to tell this story because this is so pertinent. On LinkedIn, no one's there for a reason. I mean, without a reason. They're there for a purpose, as I said before. In the old days, when you wanted to hire a real estate agent, I'm going to say 30 years ago, when we wanted to buy our first house, and we were looking for a real estate agent. So we set up 3 appointments to come to our house to sit down and talk to us. And we're on the second one, Sherry Lowry, and she starts talking about her interest. And she mentions Edgar Cayce. So if you don't know who Edgar Cayce is, I know you do, Robert, but if someone else doesn't, look him up. He was the sleeping prophet. She mentions that, and I say, okay, stop, you're hired. And my husband, he's trying to be professional. He says, well, now just a minute, honey, we have to look at the other one. I said, no, she's hired. And the reason she was hired was because I knew she would get me. I knew that she would take my bold colored walls and not say paint them beige, because I wasn't going to, because I believed the right person was going to buy my house. So we had Sherry Lowry as our realtor for 30 years. Every house we bought, every house we sold, which is I think a total of 4, she was the realtor. It was about the relationship. So that was physical space. You can do the same thing in digital space today with LinkedIn, but you have to put the information out there. So people assume you're a great real estate agent, Robert, and everyone who's listening, that they're good real estate agents. Excellent, right? Or they wouldn't be doing it. But do they know what your passions are? Do they know what your interests are? Because if you've got 5 real estate agents let's say 3 real estate agents to choose from. Let's just say one is someone who's a pilot, and you're a pilot. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, you're going with the pilot, because the other's all equal. But on LinkedIn, you have to take advantage of the space, the features, the sections, the information, to put that information out there to let people know that. Do you support certain nonprofits? What alignments do you have there? But you are in charge of putting that on LinkedIn. But once you do, it works for you all the time. Then the next step is the posting and the engagement. So like I said, I'm overly passionate about LinkedIn, but I've seen this huge success stories of what can happen on LinkedIn. But you have to put the information out there.
So now I know you can have a personal LinkedIn and a business LinkedIn.
Yes.
Can you help the audience understand how all that works?
Yes. So just like any social media platform, your personal profile is your personal profile. LinkedIn is a little bit different because it's a professional, right? But that's your personal. And you might have 3 jobs, 4 jobs, 5 jobs listed there. On your company page, it's going to be of one of those companies. So if you work for a certain company, that would be the company page and you're an employee. Like for me, I've got Debbie Saviano page, but ironically enough, I don't really post on Debbie Saviano. I have it with all the information there for SEO and everything, but I don't really post. As when we founded Women's Leadership Live with Linda McMahon and Stacy Shepham, we had Women's Leadership Live company page, and that's active. We've got, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 people on there. So, but on there, it's only things that are solution based, if you will. And so it varies for everyone. Some people, I think it's a great idea to have it, but even if you don't use it, I think you should have it because you can do your website, you can do your about section, you can do all those things that we're talking about. And it's just another caveat to show your ability to be able to help someone with their solution. So, yeah.
Well, there's no script here tonight, so I'm just going to jump around here if you don't mind.
That's
and
right.
I may go off on different tangents, but that's just the way I am.
Well, that's good.
So, okay. I the podcast is what I get involved in. And then we have people that do the marketing at the company I'm at. But, so I told you earlier, all the things I'm on. I mean, do you recommend somebody, like, let's say it's a real estate professional, okay?
Right.
Because that's what this podcast is about, real estate. And it's for all kinds of, it's geared towards real estate investors. It's geared towards real estate agents. It's geared toward people who want to get in real estate, people who've been in real estate, all aspects of real estate. But so let's just say you're let's just pick something out of the blue, like, well, I work at Jim Lake Companies, and we are a commercial real estate company here in DFW. And so the question is, should we be on multiple different social medias, in your opinion, or should we focus on one? Or what is your opinion?
So great question, Robert. So a couple of things. First of all, definitely on LinkedIn, because it is a business mindset professional platform and people are there for business. Okay, so absolutely 100% on LinkedIn. Twitter, think of it as the news, breaking news, if you will, short and sweet. I joked when it first came out, I can't even say hello in 140 characters. Now they have 180, it's better for me, but it's like quick, short things. The one thing I would, so in response to your answer, anytime there's a social media platform, I say go in and grab your handle, meaning your name. Okay, I own every Debbie Saviano there is on every social platform. I mean, anything you can think of, from Medium to anything. But do I use them all? No, I use the majority of them. But LinkedIn's where I put my emphasis because that's where I see the results. That's my ROI because that's where my peoples are. Do I use Instagram? Yes. Do I use Twitter? Yes. As much? No. Facebook, I'm on there because we've got a strong group on there. But again, I think it has to be where you get the best results and where you have the time to spend. LinkedIn is a non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. And I think in your profession for real estate, I think Twitter is good too, because there's so many quick things you can put out on Twitter. Instagram is wonderful just because of the imagery. I mean, oh my gosh, if you're commercial, well, like your backdrop, all those beautiful buildings that you have in that commercial space, so much you can do with those images. Same thing with Pinterest. So I say grab the handle, play with it a little tiny bit. And even if you don't use it, in the banner say, hey, come catch me over at LinkedIn. Let them know where you are, to redirect them. So right. I hope that's an answer. That's
a great answer. That's a great answer. Now, okay, so let's go down the list real quick here. Let's just say the top whatever, and I'll let you tell me what the top whatever and that you think people should think about looking at being on.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. So think about this. Our brain, this is where the education background comes in, the psychology background comes in, because we all bring certain skills to the table, if you will. Our brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text. So if you love to take pictures, if you take a lot of pictures, and my gosh, we all have our phones now. I mean, how easy is that, right? If you take a lot of pictures, then you want to be on Instagram and Pinterest. LinkedIn is number one beyond a shadow of a doubt. It has, I mean, for any professional business person, anyone looking for a job, anyone who has their own company, anyone who works for someone, LinkedIn, I think, is number one. Next, I would probably say Twitter for your arena. Next, I would say Instagram and Pinterest. YouTube is so good for like podcasts and stuff because you can take those and bounce them over to YouTube. I have a LinkedIn Live that I do like once or twice a month. Well, I'll record it on LinkedIn, but then I always bounce it over to YouTube as well. So if you think about it, you never know where someone's going to find you. You just don't know. Let's say you're out at an event, whatever. It could be a fundraiser. It could be a religious, whatever, an event, and someone meets you and you're talking, you have a good time, and they're not going to probably remember the company you work for. They're going to remember your name. And so they're going to go research your name and they're going to put it in Google, type it in, and you're going to see what comes up. Used to, it was different. The last 3 years, you know what comes up? Social media and media first. That's what shows up. So if you're good, bad, or indifferent, LinkedIn's usually going to be one of the top 3 that shows up. You don't want that first impression to be weak because you want them to see, hey, this guy's really strong in Dallas in commercial real estate. I want to know him. So hope I answered that.
Yes. One thing I didn't hear you mention is TikTok.
Oh, yes, TikTok. I have such mixed emotions about TikTok. I love TikTok. Absolutely love TikTok. I can go on this. If I need to laugh, I go on TikTok. I love TikTok. I have a handle on TikTok and I'm there and I put a few things out there. I struggle with the fact with the China influence.
Right.
But the thing that I finally have come to accept in my this point in my life, there's nothing I can do about that. If you're online anywhere and you bought something, they've got everything on you anyway, whether it be American or Chinese or whatever. So I think I'm past that. I think TikTok, there's some really, I said to my husband the other day, I said, where do these people learn to dance? My gosh, I wish I could dance like this. I'd get on TikTok and dance. So if you have that kind of personality, something that's really out there, there's some fun things you can do on TikTok. But you don't have to just do the dancing. There's a lot of other cool things you can do. Just get on and give a 30-second thing about, hey, I'm in downtown Dallas. Did you know how many I'm at my mind is blank. The park that's over the freeway there.
Now I'm losing it.
I know it'll come to both of us later. But anyway, you can say, hey, I'm down here. Do you know how many people work in these office buildings around here and come here for lunch on these food trucks? Fun stuff like that, because what you want, regardless of the platform, you want them to say, who is Robert, and go check you out. That's what you want, because then when they get there, that's when you tell them the story of how you're going to help them. And again, I'm using LinkedIn as a primary source for that.
Well, yeah. I just think it's, you got to look at the demographics, and a lot of people, although I posted an article the other day on LinkedIn, and it was talking about Generation Z. I guess that's pretty much the youngest one.
Yes.
I'm starting to get them really confused, all these generations. But it says that 1 out of 4 of them has real estate in some way or another.
Yes.
They either own a home or it can even be you own a real estate, some shares of a real estate investment trust. There's a lot of ways to get into real estate. Well, but I found that quite interesting.
And that's a really good point, Robert, is the generational differences, because we're all made up of those experiences that we've had. But I think that they've seen, like Shaq, he had a big article about his real estate and what he owns and everything. And there's so many of those people, John Travolta, they made those decisions to buy real estate. So I think some of the younger people are like, well, wait a minute, I can, Tony Robbins is a big advocate for real estate. So you're right. I mean, there's so many people who promote that. Absolutely.
Well, so when you started helping people with LinkedIn, so this kind of, I know we're going back to the beginning, but so people started asking you to help them build a LinkedIn profile. Is that correct?
Yes. When LinkedIn first started, you had to have met someone in person, shook hands, and exchanged a business card to be connected. That were the rules, if you will, and they were pretty strong about them. You couldn't just reach out to anybody. Well, every social media platform is organic, meaning that it evolves as the users use it, right? So it's very organic. So what's happened now is that's not the case. And so when I first started, the way I did my profile was totally different than other people, because I knew how you read. And if you're North American and you read left to right, I knew what the F pattern was. I knew how to do the spacing. I knew the caps. I knew how to gain interest. That's how I did my profile, but it was totally, totally different than anybody else's. It's just like the stars on my name. And I'm very much a rule follower because I was a principal. I believe in following rules, but that's one thing I didn't follow because LinkedIn wouldn't let you have the icons in your name when I first started. When I did this 10 years ago, you couldn't do that, but I did it anyway. And other people would text me, would email me and say, well, you can't do that. And I said, when LinkedIn tells me to take it down, I'll take it down. They never did ask me to take it down. Now you can do it, right? So I think sometimes they're always looking at algorithms to see what works. But people would reach out and say, like, I just told this story to someone the other day. When I first started, I had my cell number everywhere. People thought I was crazy. Now, real estate people, you'd have your phone. That wouldn't even be a thing with you, right?
No.
Exactly. I had my phone because I wanted people to be able to reach me because when
we want them to call.
Exactly. We want them to call. And so I can remember being in Austin one day at a conference speaking, and my phone rang. I didn't know who it was. They left a message. I saw, okay, it's someone who wants that. So I called them in a 5-minute period, basically, because everything's on my profile. They gave me their credit card. I charged their card in 5 minutes from walking to the little trolley thing into this thing. Someone had hired me, paid me, and I had a gig. I couldn't have gotten that if I hadn't had my cell number on there. I wouldn't have gotten it. Right. So they started hiring me to do that. And we were talking about this earlier, but for the most part, probably 70% of my clients on redesigned profiles are men, 40 and above, very successful, every imaginable industry you can imagine, because I take their profile and I do for them what they can't do. It's very difficult for people to go in and talk about themselves, but that's why people are there. They want to know what your strengths are. They want to know what your experiences are. They want to know how you're going to help them. I can do that easier than they can do that for themselves. And so just like how we speak in the beginning, people would say, they'd say Robert this and Robert that. Well, that's not the person. You're talking to the person reading that profile. So I started with second person and I used you a lot. You'll see caps in mine. And people say, well, that's not grammatically. I'm trying to get people's attention. When you get, when you get the old telegram, it says a few words, stop, says a few words, stop. You'll notice on my headline, and I teach this, I promote it, I use it myself for clients. There's a few words and there's a spacer. It's either a space bar, it's a dot, it's an arrow, it's something to break those words up because our brain needs that to comprehend all that. If it's just 1, 2, or 3 long sentences, they're not going to get the same information. And then the second thing is that talking to the person who's reading it, because that's what you care about. It's not about Robert or Debbie or whoever's listening. It's about the person reading it, the person you're trying to help. So, yes.
Well, I mean, my undergraduate degree is in marketing. And so that's one reason I'm so excited to talk to you, because I really do like it. And I didn't go into it. I went to law school, became a lawyer, and then I've gotten into real estate. But even as a lawyer, even as in real estate, of course, marketing and that whole area, and now social media, the more narrow part of marketing, although I'm not sure how narrow it is these days. It may be gobbling up the rest of marketing. But what I'm trying to say is I really like it. And so I have a real big interest in it. So one thing I've noticed is people, and I'll tell you what drives me crazy sometimes. Well, okay, many things drive me crazy, but one thing that drives me crazy is sometimes you'll watch a commercial on TV and I don't even know what product they're selling.
Thank you. Do
you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I just said
that millions of dollars for a commercial, and it's hard to dissect what you're even talking about. And I've seen this on people's profiles. You can't reach them, you can't contact them, you can't connect with them. And I'm just wondering, there's just so many things. I'll see websites and you have to dig, and it's an effort to find their phone number.
Right.
So there's just a lot of things like that. Tell us what your experiences are. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
100%. When I first started speaking, and it's funny because people asked me to speak because of my age, because I was the age I was. So if you put someone on a stage to talk about social media and LinkedIn, et cetera, and you're 30, they're going to say, well, yeah, of course she can do it. But if everyone in the audience is 40 and plus, it's a lot easier when someone my age, because they're thinking, well, shoot, if she can do it, I can do it too. Plus, I have the education background and I know how to teach without making people feel uncomfortable with the passion for them to learn. So when in the beginning, my husband would always go with me, and he would people would give business cards because I call it selling the back of the room. I sell courses and et cetera. And he would take the business cards. He used to say, what are these people thinking? They don't even have a phone number. They don't have an email. What are they thinking? So yes. And I look at these commercials. So yesterday with the football game, my husband, the family, they were all watching the Cowboy game, and I was on my computer, of course. And I was looking at the commercials. I was looking at how they were doing the marketing. I'm thinking, this is so different than what it was 3 years ago. If you notice now on everything that when they were showing halftime in the different places, it was all avatars. It wasn't people's pictures. Cool avatars, but it wasn't their pictures. So everything evolves and changes. But the one thing you have to make sure you do, people have to contact you. If they want your services and they can't get you, I promise you, as you would agree, they'll move on to the next person, because people are so fickle these days. They're multitasking. They have too much to do. If they can't get what they need, they will move on. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I always make the joke, unless you've got a pill that can make me lose 50 pounds overnight, then I'm still going to look for you. Otherwise, I'm done.
No, I don't have that, because I need one too.
I know we all do.
Drilling down a little bit more on LinkedIn, I have seen people with a very bare bones, LinkedIn profile, and they'll maybe have, I don't know, 20, 30 connections. You can tell they've just put it up there one day because they felt like they had to do it, and they probably haven't looked at it since.
Right.
So that's not what you're thinking you should use LinkedIn in the way you should use LinkedIn, right?
Absolutely. You have to take it. LinkedIn, again, I'm such an advocate for them. And again, it's all the algorithms and all the tech in the back end. They know what works for people, and they're constantly changing it to our benefit. LinkedIn gives you the space and the real estate that you need. And so it takes a little bit of time. That's kind of, as I said before, how I got started what I did, because people with a lot of responsibilities, if they had the funds and resources, they'd rather hire me to do it than do it themselves.
Right.
But you have to fill in the features and the sections, and you have to take advantage of that. I mean, if you're not going to do that, then are you really serious about business? Because I don't know anyone, and I'm sure there's plenty, but I don't know them, who are successful who don't have a robust LinkedIn profile. I just don't. And maybe to the point where it's not everything they need. And I always share, I mean, everything has to be filled in, and you can build it as you go along, but the 70-some%, the first thing they're going to see is that top portion, that business card, if you will, that virtual card, a banner that speaks to the viewer, who it is you're trying to attract, a photo, obviously, that shows your personality, a headline that speaks to why you. And I say that all the time, why you, because that's what they're there. Why you? How can you help me find my commercial space or find my next house? Why you? Contact information, and then a link that goes to your anchor. And I always say an anchor is your website or your sales, whatever it is that you want to direct people to, where they can actually make the purchase, if you will. In your case, in real estate, it could be just the contact with you to set up a meeting, how you can help them. But those are 5 things you've got to have. And then you start saying, okay, Monday, I'm going to do the about section. Next, I'm going to do the experience. And once you start and you see the benefits of it, it's a lot easier to say, hey, I see this, I get it. And so let me share a little funny story that's so relevant. I always have my phone, as we always do. And people always think about, okay, I met Robert at an event, so I want to connect on LinkedIn. Or I heard about you, I want to connect. I always have my phone. If I'm watching something on TV, a special, or if I'm at an event and hear a speaker, but right now I want to talk about TV. So we were watching a show one night. This was several months back. It was on the Discovery Channel. It had to do with invisible cloak. This guy who had invented an invisible material primarily for military uniforms, but he does these, camouflage things. So I get out my phone. I shoot him a message to connect. Actually, I got my phone out to see if he was on LinkedIn first. Then I got my computer, because you can't send a personal message on your mobile. And so I got out my laptop, sent him a message and say, hey, I'm watching you on this show. I'd love to connect if you're open. I'm not kidding you when I tell you 15 minutes. He responds back and connects and says, what are you watching? So I tell him. And then he says, oh, I'm in Canada. I don't get that show. So I said, oh, that's a bummer. So anyway, a couple messages back and forth, and then we're done. 3 days later, I'm in my office working, and I have another show on, always have it on the background. And it was on the moon. and conspiracy things and different things about the moon, just, kind of historical perspective of the moon. And they say 3 men own helium rights to the moon. Name 1, name 2, name 3 is Guy Kramer. I'm like, wait a minute. I hear his name. I stop, rewind, and I'm on my desktop, on my laptop. And so I shoot a message. I said, Guy, is this you? And he goes, yes. And I said, well, first of all, how do you get the rights to buy the helium on the moon? But my point—
That's what I'm wondering.
That's what I wondered. But my point is, I would never have known this man had I not taken the initiative to reach out, because I saw him on TV and send him a LinkedIn connection. The key was, I think, because I told him why I was wanting to connect, he didn't think I was some weirdo or whatever.
Right.
But I talked to him so many times. And there's a great book by Chris Brogan, The Freak Shall Inherit the Earth. And the book is about, thanks to technology, all those nerds that we thought in school that people used to make fun of, they're the ones who built those social platforms, right? And because of technology now, you can connect because there's no gatekeeper. I would never have known how to connect with Guy Kramer. How would I ever get in touch with him, right? I would not. So, but because of LinkedIn, I can. So who is it you want to know, or who is it you have an interest with? And there's so many scenarios there that you wouldn't have had, but you can now because of LinkedIn.
Right.
And he probably wouldn't have connected with me either had my LinkedIn profile not been robust.
Yes, true. Now, before I forget, you mentioned in a little bit earlier in the podcast that you do courses.
Yes. So
can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So when I started speaking in the beginning, people didn't pay me to speak. Okay. And people always say, well, if I don't get paid, I'm not going. I'm like, get paid in the back of the room, because most places let you get paid in the back of the room. So I developed courses. Again, my background's education, curriculum and all that. That's easy for me. So I developed courses that were particular to whoever I was speaking to. And I would sell those courses. And the most I sold, never mind saying this, the most I sold was $35,000 in a 2-day period on courses to groups I was speaking to. Okay, now they didn't pay me, nor should they pay me. The people listening to me, if they found value in what I was teaching, they're the ones that wanted to purchase the course, right? So I started doing courses, and now I do courses, and some I do with other people, depending on a certain area of interest, if you will, or industry. And then I'm finishing up my course right now, the latest one on LinkedIn. So yeah, I love courses, because online learning, thanks to COVID, my gosh, we've all realized just how much you can learn on your own. People, they want to do their own thing when they want to watch it. They don't want to have to necessarily. So I record those, I put those up, and then they get the whole thing when they purchase the course. Yeah.
Nice. And then, so when you do courses, well, here's what I'm trying to say is you'll do courses, but then you'll also do you'll help people on an individual basis.
Yes. So I kind of have 3 areas. I speak, and that kind of got shut down with COVID, if you will. I also have the courses. I do the courses. And the third thing I do is I redesign LinkedIn profiles. In a couple cases, I never take on more than 3 of these people, and I'm very, very private in how I do this. But I've had people who've hired me to white chair them. So when I'm online, anyone else would think it's them. Because again, my education background, having sat in a chair of responsibility, so I do their posting. I create everything.
What do you call that?
You know how you have a white paper, a white label? It's a white. I say white chair. So I'm them, but no one knows I'm them. It all looks like it's them.
That's awesome, though. I can see where a lot of people would need that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I never take on more than 3, just because I've got 2 now, just because it's so time consuming. I want to give the effort to it that it takes. And, you
have to know all their passwords and all that stuff.
Well, and just their whole mindset, how they talk, how they act. Will they post here? Because as we know, too many people have gotten serious trouble because someone made a boo-boo on social media. And when someone's very successful, you can't afford to do that. You can't. No. There can't be a mistake. There cannot be a mistake. Yeah.
What do you like doing the most? I mean, it sounds like you like doing all those things.
It's fun. Is when I was a principal, he said, well, what grade do you like the best? I said, whatever grade I'm with at the time. I mean, I love kids, right? So whatever grade you're with, they all have their funny things that they do. And the challenges, the same. I love to speak. Everything for me always goes back to education and learning. I think there's no greater gift than teaching something you've learned, regardless of who we are. And so So it's whatever I'm doing at the time. But I do love teaching people stuff that's going to help them that they didn't know. Hey, I didn't know you could do that. So let me give you an example. So I do a thing every Tuesday. It's called Tuesday Tip. And I share something. For the most part, it's LinkedIn, probably 90% LinkedIn tips, but there's a few other things too. And I'll share something that people might not be aware of. But not only do I share it, I do a image, and I'll actually have little pictures, 1, 2, 3, so they can look at it and see how to do it. So it's in the, it's in the copy, but it's also in the images, because I never want people to feel like, well, I don't want to ask the question, or I don't know that. I want it to be very easy to look at and say, hey, I can do that. So I'll share one tomorrow, and then showing people that I know what I'm talking about, but I want to share that because I think it's going to help them. So like, I can't think what, tomorrow I'm going to do, tomorrow's different. Tomorrow's Twitter. Twitter's got the audio spaces now where you can go in and talk. LinkedIn does too. And I'm going to do a whole visual thing on Tuesday Tip. Is on the Twitter audio. Next Tuesday, it's on the bell. So let's say that you had 5 people, organizations, whatever, that you want to know who they are. So if you go to their LinkedIn profile, up in the corner, there's a little bell. If you click that bell, you'll get notified every time they post.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Most people don't know it. And because we're so busy, there's so much going on.
Right.
It's just hard. And you can have your list, which, I do that as well. But who is it you want to know you, and you don't want to miss their post? And so go in and click the, ding, 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 ring the bell. So they let you know that they're going to be live, that they're going to share something.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the whole world of social media, I can tell you, okay, well, when I was practicing law, there was really no social media to speak of. We were doing yellow pages. So that was one thing. And then I got into real estate, and I was doing development and all that. And then I started working for companies who always did their own. So only since I started this podcast have I had to start thinking about doing my own marketing, online, social media, and all that. And I can tell you one thing that you've probably heard many times before, but I'll tell you how I feel about it, is it's overwhelming.
Oh, it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. It is. But here's the thing, Robert. I'm looking at your profile because I want to see something here on your profile. Okay, so it is overwhelming, but that's one of the things I try to share with people, because it is overwhelming. And people say, well, my gosh, how many hours a day do you spend? Not as much as you'd think, because I understand the psychology behind it. I know who I want to stay in touch with. I know who those people are that I want to engage with. I always have, 99% of the time, I have a post that I want to share something with. I know who I want to go and engage with. So when I'm in there, I focus. I don't get sidetracked. I go in, I get focused. I do a 30-day calendar, and I put the images up, like my Tuesday tips. I already know what those are. I've got those done. 80% of it is there. 20% are those things that come up that like the death of the queen, her dying. That was, didn't know it was coming. So the 20% of those things you fill in. But I try to teach people how to do it where it's not overwhelming and time consuming, because it is time consuming. But if you have a system and a process, it's not quite as much. And the other thing, 90% you can do on your phone now. It's not so much as it used to be, with so much on desktop, if you will, on your laptop.
Well, I like the iPad for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's kind of like an in between the computer, the computer and the phone. The phone just it's a little hard for me to do things on the phone, like post anything or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's the more I learn about it, it's just like, wow, there is just a lot, and I can see how many busy professionals could use your help. And why they do call on you, because people work hard every day. They work hard. They put in long days, and to do social media to them is just like, are you kidding me? There's just no time left.
When I speak, that's what I always started talking about. How many of you in this room think social media is overwhelming? 99% raise their hand.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, they do. It's like, how can I do one?
I'll raise my hand there too.
Exactly. I mean, everybody does. How can I do one more thing? Because they're trying to do the job. They don't have time for that. But what I show them is, if you do these little things, that can be part of the yellow page days. Because when you get clients, when you get people who you've wanted to hire you for what, or you know what, hire you for a position, or hire you for, you know, a commercial building or selling the home, whatever. When you see how that happens, it's like, because exponentially you can reach many more people than you ever could in physical space. So once you know some of those strategies, it's like, well, hey, wait a minute, I'm gonna put another 10 minutes here because I just got this job. I just got this person to hire me for this.
Well, and like you say, people do want to know more about you before they do business with you.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll give you a real life example that happened right before this podcast. I was on the phone with a guy that I've been talking to about renting a space, and he's been talking about different spaces and all this stuff. And I said, all right, well, I said, I'm in my car right now. I said, I'll give you a call a little bit later, or I'll call you tomorrow. I said, because I'm about to get on a podcast. And he perked up on the phone. He goes, what do you mean a podcast? I said, well, I have a podcast. He goes, you do? And anyway, so I ended up giving him my website, the name of the podcast, and he wants to listen to it. And he's just a potential tenant.
Right.
I don't want to say just, but he says, oh, I definitely want to listen to that. And I was just thinking, wow, I'm kind of surprised that he's, you know, I think that, okay, he just wants to see the spaces I have, but he doesn't. He wanted to know more about me.
People all, you know, I think that's where marketing has failed people. We hear all these things over the years, right? People really just want to know. We hear it. People want to do business. People they know, like, and trust. That's true. That's what they want. I mean, it's like, I always joke, if I'm at an event and you come up, we start talking, and I start telling you everything that's on my LinkedIn profile, you will be looking for the nearest exit. You will say, who is this crazy woman? Let me out of here. However, if we talk about fun stuff and things that you're interested in and I'm interested in, things we connect with, and then you say, hey, I'm going to check out Debbie's LinkedIn profile, that's where you learn all the details. That's what people want, because they're there by choice. You haven't cornered them in the room telling them. They're there by choice, but the information has to be there. That's the key.
Well, and I can't tell you the amount of times I've picked up somebody's card and I've talked to them or whatever, and I think I can hardly wait to look them up on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I can learn more about them.
Right, right. And that's why it's so important to have the nonprofits you support, to have the patents you might have, to have the books you've been involved with, whatever it is, because that's what people are searching for. People are searching for the commonalities. We don't want to admit that, but they are. I mean, people want to be around people who have similar interests, or at least have the interest of being able to share information. Because we don't have to agree on everything, but they want to be able to say, well, hey, this person's curious. This person, like your podcast, you're telling him that you're not just doing one thing, you're taking it to another level. And that's huge, because not everybody does that. So right. Yeah, I can definitely see why he'd want to do that, for sure.
Well, and then there's the whole aspect of a person will have, they'll have, well, like, for example, I'll hire vendors sometimes and they'll provide a service.
Right.
And like, here's one that I normally do really want more information about is general contractors. So I'll talk to a general contractor and they'll send me whatever, a card or drop off a card. And then I'll say, well, can I see something more? Can I see some projects you've worked on in the past? What's that?
I said some work, things they've done that you can see.
Right. I don't want to just hire a general contractor just because he says he's, I want to see some projects and a lot of them are really good about it. They'll send me projects they've worked on. They'll send me information. And so it's kind of similar to LinkedIn. They just want to know, they simply want to know more.
Right, absolutely. And that's the beauty of why LinkedIn is so good, because like in your experiences, for example, there's media section. So you can add, if you look at mine, you can see that there's all these different kinds of media you can add in there. It can be PDF documents, it can be images, it can be whatever, projects. But that's where people can go and see, well, hey, yeah, she really does know. They can look at recommendations. Recommendations are something a lot of people don't really see. They don't understand how important that can be. All LinkedIn is, or digital in general, is word of mouth. It's just a digital word of mouth. And so the fact that they're there to see all that means a lot. And so when you provide that for them, you've given them the information that they're seeking. And the people who don't, they're missing out on the opportunity, because LinkedIn knows how valuable that real estate is. They know exactly how valuable it is.
Yes. And it's real estate in your head, kind of.
Absolutely.
Or online. And
you know what the most valuable digital real estate is right now? Your feed. People scrolling. What are they stopping for? So if you have something on your profile, for example, or any of them for that matter, but if you have something say, "Ooh, that's a cool image," like your image you have behind you, it's intriguing, it's interesting, it's the tower, it's the green lights. I mean, it's cool. So what do you have that's going to stop them just for a second to say, "Hey, I want to know more"?
Right.
Just your podcast. Your podcast could get you a job because he was intrigued that you have a podcast. He
Right.
might be looking at 3 other people and they don't have a podcast. And he might be really interested in that for other reasons as well, but it's a beneficial thing for sure.
Well, it was not easy to start a podcast,
I know.
and actually, it was a younger coworker of mine encouraged me to do it, and I said, I don't know, and blah blah blah, and he says, look, he says it could be a good thing, and so anyway, he encouraged me, so I started doing it, and I'm not really doing, my goal isn't really to get business. I'm not trying to hustle to get business. Yes, if some extra real estate business or something comes my way, if somebody doesn't know anybody in Dallas and they call me and I can help them, I'd love to do that. But that's not really my primary goal. My primary goal is education of people, trying to share, because I've done a lot in my career and I want to share what I know, and I want to share what my guests know with other people. And that's really my goal with the podcast.
And see, that's the thing, is the fact that it's obvious because we didn't know each other before. And I could tell from the beginning that your podcast was to share information. And the fact I do a fair amount of interviews, and most of the time they kind of give me a outline of what they want me to talk about or whatever. You said, "No, I just want to talk. I want to find out what you know and how you can help the people who are listening." That's, to me, the greatest gift we give people is how can we, I mean, we only walk this earth once, right? And I think that every experience we've had and everything we've done is something that we learn from, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But the point is we learn, and how can we share that with other people? I love the fact that I learned what I did from about social media and LinkedIn and all the other platforms so that I can help other people do that because I see the value of it. I see the value of it.
Well, and LinkedIn really is huge. Can you talk a little bit about how huge LinkedIn really is?
So LinkedIn's got 830 million, and I mean users, if you will. And all you have to do is, and again, I'm on there every day, at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. If I'm at an event, I'm on there more than that, obviously. But the thing with LinkedIn is people are there with a business mindset. They're there with the business mindset. Now, are they salesy? Some are, but for the most part, I would say 70 to 80%, the old Pareto principle, they're there to share information, just like you're talking about. And so people go there wanting to get that information. That's why people look at my Tuesday tip. They know I'll share something that they might not know. And it's true of most of the people that I follow and that I'm there for. The quotes, the images, it's different than other platforms. So, and again, the fact it's a global reach is huge. I mean, you can't get where else can we go and have access to the world? Nowhere with a business mindset, because you have other platforms, but they're not business mindset. And you can see that by the post. That's another thing I always tell people when they're talking about the different platforms. Make sure that what you post on each platform is relevant to the users. Twitter is not Instagram. Twitter is not Facebook. Twitter is short, sweet, get to the point. And so even the image sizes, those differ. So if you put an image on Twitter and it's not the right size, people get the subliminal message that that person doesn't know what they're doing. Now, you can mess up once in a while, but for the most part, you want to make sure that how you're using it is effective. So again, LinkedIn, and with the engagement that it has and with the reach that it has, again, I always tell people I'm biased, and so it's hard, but I'm biased because I see how it works. Just like on recommendations. So you can go in on recommendations and give recommendations. And we are a society as a whole, regardless of where we live in the world, that if someone does something nice for me, I want to return the favor. And so if you give that recommendation, 9 times out of 10, someone's going to say, well, hey, what can I do for you? How can I return the favor? And people will for the most part. But if someone's looking at someone to hire for whatever reason it might be, for a job, a company, a project, whatever, and one person's got 99 plus on all their skills, and they've got 30 or 40 or 50 recommendations, and that's above everybody else, subliminally. It's like how many trucks in the parking lot at the cafe? That's where you're going to eat. That may or may not be true, but that's what you think. Otherwise, why would they all be there? So it's kind of the same mindset. And so, and LinkedIn, the other thing about LinkedIn that I love is that they as I've said a couple of times, they continually adjust to how can best help us. So now they've got the creator mode. And so the creator mode lets you do LinkedIn Live and lets you do audios and lets you do newsletters. And so like your podcast, and something to think about maybe is to have someone either transcribe that or take portions of it and just like have 10 tips. I do a Books and Bites newsletter. And so what it is I take nonfiction books. It's for people who love to read nonfiction but don't always have the time. So I'll read a book and I'll do 10 highlights. It's quick, it's easy to read. You can scan it and be done. You could do that with your podcast and break it down and then put that into a newsletter. So you're always taking that information and passing it across, because again, at the end of the day, you want to share information and you want people to say, hey, Robert can help me. Because that's what you want to do. You find people commercial space because you're trying to help them. That's why you do what you do. You could do something else. You could go be an attorney.
Right. Well, I have a blog, and you just gave me ideas of how to come up with more content for my blog.
Exactly. It's all about content. How can you share that, and how can you share that across different spaces?
Okay. Now, I do not understand creator mode that well.
Okay.
Let me just tell you how I felt about it. Okay. I did not choose creator mode, and I don't think I'm on it right now. I'm not a creator or whatever. And it's because everybody has, not everybody, but it defines the people that connect with you. And maybe I am a creator. I don't know what I am right now. But it defines it defines the people who follow you as followers. And I don't want to feel like I'm a guru and people are following me. Do you know what I mean? I never want to be that guy. I'm not trying to be that guy. At the same time, I just want to have connections. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense. And I will tell you this, that when they first came out with it, I didn't do it because I felt the same way. We had that.
Really?
Yes. We had that imposter syndrome. Should we or shouldn't we? And the other thing is I'm always wanted to like test the waters. Is it something that I can really be of service? And so I didn't do it in the beginning. But then I thought, wait a minute, I can do a newsletter if I do that. So I thought I love to read nonfiction books. I thought that's a way I can help other people is by sharing those tips. They don't have to necessarily read the book. They can just look at those tips and know what the book's about and see if it's worth doing, right? And so that's why I did that. But I think that we have that imposter syndrome that when we say creator and you think of the Richard Bransons of the world, et cetera. Right. No, it's just what you have so much wealth and so much knowledge. You are a creator. I mean, that's what you do in your job every day, but we get hung up on that term. I totally get it, Robert, because I was there with you, totally was there with you. But yeah, but I do see the benefits of it now, and that's why I'm doing what I do. I just feel like it's such a valuable thing to take advantage of with the newsletter and the LinkedIn Live. So yeah, I'm still trying to find you here. I'm waiting to see if you are.
I mean, I write blogs, and those could be newsletters.
Exactly. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, see on my phone, I can't tell because that's what. So if you are a creator, it's going to say open to, or yeah, I can't tell on this.
I'll just go to my profile real quick here. I don't think I am.
But because you have a podcast and because you have a blog, you really should take advantage of that. Seriously.
Okay, well, I'll look at it. But I mean, that was my hesitation. I don't want to feel like I'm someone you should follow. You know?
And there again, it's one of those things that even though you follow, you still can reach out and connect with people. And I want the deeper relationship. So I'd say probably 95%, probably 98% of the people I follow, I'm also connected to them. Because I've reached out and I've made that request, or they've reached out and made that request, because the people who I'm going to be attracted to or vice versa are going to be people who want relationships, just like I would think you for sure as well.
Right. And like you say, I'm creating content.
Yes.
So I should be in the creator mode.
Yes. To help people.
Not everybody creates content.
Right. Exactly. You're creating a whole bunch of content. Absolutely. So
yeah. Sure. So yeah. Okay. Well, you've convinced me, and I'm glad because I've never really got to talk to anybody who knows these things. And, it's just not very few people know what you know. Well, really, I'm serious.
I spent, again, the educator, I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about, and I didn't know anything. So I spent 2.5 years. And most of the people I learned from, this 10 years ago, 12 years ago at the time, they were babies. I mean, the Chris Brogans, the David Simon Garland's, the Lewis Howes. These guys were like so young, but they were so in tune to what was Gary Vee. That's who I followed. 99% of them were men, were guys, and a couple women, Sue Zimmerman and Amy Porterfield. But I wanted to learn everything I could, and I went deep for 2.5 years because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was talking about, because I knew I couldn't help people if I didn't understand it. And
Now,
because
these are social media people that you're talking
yes,
about? Okay.
yeah, very, very successful. I mean, these are the people who, if you met them at an event or a game or whatever, you just think, you know, the guy next door, the girl, whatever.
Right.
They're bringing in some big bucks because of what they do. I mean, we're talking in the millions because of their expertise. But at the time, they too were just starting out. And so,
Right.
you know, I was fortunate enough to come in at the right time. But I didn't want to be out there, like you said earlier, if I didn't know what I was talking about.
Right.
And so I wanted to make sure I was, you know, well versed. And that's why I stay in tune with it every day. I mean, I'm always learning something every day because there's so much to learn.
Well, let me ask you, I know that we're coming to the end, but I did want to ask you, okay, when you connect, can you give us some advice on how to connect, how to increase your connections, the people you
Yes.
know?
So LinkedIn wants you to connect with people, right? And they make it easy. So if you go into your navigation bar at the top where it says network, if you scroll, you'll have your invitations and things there. But if you scroll down, you'll see people you went to college with, or people you worked with, or people, I mean, they know all this. I mean, it's all there. And they'll give you people who are there. And so don't click on connect, because that doesn't let you leave a message. That doesn't let you send a personal message. Click on their name.
I'm guilty of that.
But you want to always send a message. So click on their name and then go to it and say, hit the connect button, and then send the personal invite and just say, hey, it's Robert. I see we're both in Dallas, seem to have a lot of the same interests. I'd love to connect if you're open.
That's beautiful. I love it. That's so simple.
And then when you're done, when they say yes, then go back in, because see, here's where you tell people you're not a spammer, because most of the time people think, oh, they're going to spam me. I go back in, I say, thanks for the invite. Have a fabulous week, Debbie. Done. They know I'm not spamming, because that's what people do.
I do try to thank people for connecting.
Yes,
I do that.
Yes, but a lot of people don't, Robert. A lot of people don't. And so you step yourself up to showing you are about relationships. You know, you are. The other thing that I think I'll just share one more thing, because I think it's really important. If you have 3 to 5 organizations or businesses, whomever, that you want to know you for a variety, it could be for anything, right? You want them to hire you for a job. You want them to hire you to find commercial space, whatever it is. There's 3, you know, say 5. You identify who those 5 are, and then you go on LinkedIn. Do they have a company page? Do they have a company page? If they do have a company page, you want to follow it, and then you want to click on post, view the page, click on post. Do they have posts that are there that you can comment on? So I'll give you an example.
Oh.
So when you and I knew I was going to come on this, I was trying to think, okay, what's something specifically I could share for real estate? Now, are you familiar with nextdoor.com?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good website.
Yeah, they have a really cool LinkedIn page. They have close to 100,000 followers, and they post. So they had a post a couple days ago from the CEO, Sarah. And what you'll notice when you go to those posts, you can have 50 to 200 reactions. You know, the like, the love, the curious, whatever, the reactions. 1 or 2 or 3 comments, and maybe 1 or 2 shares. When you comment, your picture shows up and portion of your headline shows up. And then you say what you want to say. So go into those 3 to 5 people you want, you know, companies you want to know you, and start engaging. Because again, you want them to say, who's Robert? So they click over on your profile.
Right.
That's why what you have in your headline is so critical. I'm going back to yours again. Let me go back here. Okay, so like if you see mine, it's going to say social media advocate, course creator, speaker. That's going to show up in my comments. Do it and see what shows up on yours. Does it speak to you? Does it immediately? I'm looking at it.
Right.
It doesn't speak to immediately how you can help them. That's what you want. That's how you want to show. So anyone listening, that's what you want to say. Put yourself in the eyes or the head of the viewer that you want to be looking at your profile. Does that speak to what they're looking for?
In other words, it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah, right. So like if I was selling homes in suburbia, right? If I was selling homes in suburbia, I probably would say in my headline something about, let me find the perfect home for you, or are you looking for that ideal place to raise your kids? Something that's speaking to what they're looking for, depending upon where they look. You're looking for a place to walk your dog, a community. I mean, pet friendly,
Right.
something that's going to attract the attention, because yeah. But
Right.
they're powerful because you can really get in front of people. You couldn't, it's so, because they're still gatekeepers, but you don't have to, you can get past those gatekeepers if you take advantage of some of those processes of what we're talking about. Just like if there's decorators or other places you want to align with, if you were selling real estate in a certain area and there's certain nonprofits in that area or certain organizations, you want to align with them, start by aligning just with on a LinkedIn profile by engaging. You can see how crazy I get about all this.
Well, no, I mean, and here's one final thing I wanted to say is I'm connected with people that I doubt I ever would have connected with in real life, because you talk about gatekeepers, they probably have 3 levels deep of gatekeepers that would have told me, no, go away, who are you? But I connected straight with them on LinkedIn, and now I'm connected with them.
Absolutely. And
And
that's the power of LinkedIn.
it is.
That is the power of LinkedIn.
You don't have to deal with a receptionist who's trained to tell you go away.
Exactly.
Or somebody, or more, or 2 or 3 levels of
Two or 3 of them. Yeah, exactly.
Because a lot of these people do want to connect with fellow professionals.
Right, exactly. And the fact that someone reaches out in a creative, organic way shows the true intent of building relationships. And especially when you, like, if you ding the bell on those 5 people, so you always see what they post.
Oh, yes.
One of the first ones to be able to comment, that shows something. Or, that you comment in the first day or so, that speaks volumes. I always try to comment on Guy Kramer's stuff, because the man just, so impressed with it. He has, like, I don't know, 50 patents. I don't know. He's just so smart. And every time I read his post, I feel like I'm back in school, because he teaches so much. So I don't want to miss his stuff.
You know what? I was just about to say all that about you. I'm not joking. That's exactly how I was going to wrap it up. But I do want to ask, how do people contact you if they would like to contact you?
Okay, so if they go to my LinkedIn profile, in my banner, it has my phone number and my email, my website. Yeah, Debbie@debbiesaviano.com. Very, very simple. But on LinkedIn, you can do messages, and that's how you and I first met. And like I said, I check LinkedIn every day. Every day I check LinkedIn. Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. But even if you just go in for 10 minutes to do something, it's worth the time and the effort. But my stuff's all out there. It's not, and that's one other thing I'd add, Robert, to end that with what you're saying with the contact information. LinkedIn lets you do your numbers, your websites, everything. Fill it out. Let people know where they can find you.
They are very liberal about letting you do things.
Very, very, very generous. Yeah.
Yes. So, well, thank you so much, Debbie. I mean, you've been a great guest. I mean, I feel like we could go on for 2 or 3 more hours here. But I really do think you've helped the people in real estate, and you've helped me. I know that. So,
I hope. Well, I'll share this as well, and I'll tell anyone in the comments if they have questions to reach out. I tried to get some things that were viable that people would easily do that they might not have thought about. So hopefully. Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure, Robert. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for your time. You have a good week.
My pleasure. You too, Robert. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.